Hi, this is Mashnu, and this evening I just played another 45 minutes game at chess.com, and I did an open challenge and just waited for someone to accept it, and actually within 5 minutes it was accepted by the same player that I played yesterday. So that was a rematch. I was playing black this time, and I'm going to show you the game. He played e4, and I played the Alekhine defense, knight f6. Now e5, bishop to, oh, I'm sorry, knight to d5, d4. This is the main line, d6, and now bishop to c4. This is one of the more aggressive systems for white. This bishop is very well placed there on this diagonal towards f7, and there are actually two main moves for black, c6 and knight to b6. I chose for knight to b6, attacking the bishop, and the bishop went to b3. Now I took on e5, he took, oh no, sorry, didn't take back, he played this one, queen to f3, attacking f7. So I need to stop this threat, and it's very simple. I need to play e6. e6 blocks my light square bishop, that's the counterpart of it. And now he took on e5. Now the question is whether this pawn on e5 is going to be a weakness or not. That's, let's say, the main idea of the Alekhine defense, to invite white to advance his central pawns, so then they can be attacked. So I played knight to c6 here, attacking the pawn on e5. He went with the queen to g3, defending the pawn and also preventing me from developing my dark square bishop, because the queen is attacking g7. Now the next move, I knew this move was a theoretical move. If I wouldn't have studied the theory of the Alekhine defense, then probably I would not find this next move, because it's a bit of a strange move at first sight, but it's a very logical move. It's queen to d4. Queen to d4 brings the queen very early in the game into play, and that's something that we mostly don't advise to beginners. But in this case, it's attacking the e5 pawn twice, with the queen and with the knight. So white needs to react, and he can react as he did in the game with knight f3, attacking my queen and defending the pawn. The theoretical line continues with queen to e4 check. And my opponent did the best move that is not very difficult to find, bishop to e3. And here I believe there are two possible moves according to the theory: a queen to g6 immediately, or first knight to d5. And I find knight to d5 a bit more aggressive, threatening to take on e3. On the other hand, it invites white to play his knight to d2, attacking the queen. The advantage also of this knight on d5 is that it prevents the white knight from going to c3, so it must be developed now to d2. But of course white is winning tempo, developing his pieces, so there is absolutely nothing wrong with white's position, but black is not in danger. I mean, I play now queen to g6, and well, white more or less has to trade the queens. There is not really a good square to go for white with his queen to avoid the trade of queens. So he took on g6, and here actually I made my first slight mistake, I think. I retook actually in just 2 seconds without thinking. I retook with the h pawn, and when I was replaying the game, I thought, wait a minute, white, why don't attack with the f pawn? That's actually a very logical idea, to later move this this bishop away, for example bishop to e7, and then castle kingside, and have this rook on this half open f file. That would be a very logical idea, but somehow I was just playing automatically at this point without taking my time. So I took here on g6. At this point, by the way, we both had used the same amount of time, I think. I believe we had thought about 10 minutes, something like that. And it's a 45 minutes game, 45 minutes for each player. Bishop to g5 now. Not a very pleasant move for me, because it prevents me from castling queenside later. This bishop is controlling this d8. So I took my time to think what to do here. I wasn't sure. I looked at f6, but I didn't like f6. It just doesn't really work very well, because he can take here, and then if I retake, he can first take the knight, and then the defense of f6 is gone. So if I retake, bishop takes f6. So this doesn't work. Because of that, I moved my bishop to e7, accepting that I will lose the right of castling, because he took on e7, and now I retake with the king. I didn't want to retake with one of the knights. I thought that if I take with a king, it's no problem to be in the center, because there are no queens on the board, and he doesn't have a dark square bishop to attack my king. And besides that, this pawn on e5 now is actually blocking the center. The center cannot be opened anymore. So my king is safe in the center at the moment. Here my opponent castled queenside, and I played a5. Idea is to play a4, and then, well, put a question to this bishop, how to react. After he played a4, preventing my pawn from advancing, I played b6, and now I'm ready to develop my pieces, to develop my light squared bishop. Actually, that was my problem bishop a few moves ago. Just let me return to this position, for example. Here, this bishop on c8 is a problem bishop, just like in the French defense. When e6 is played, it's blocked, so it needs to be developed another way. So, well, in the game, this is what happened, and now I was ready to play either bishop to a6 or bishop to b7. Knight to e4 now. Centralizing the knight and threatening to take on d5, winning a pawn. Moving this knight away would not work. I played rook to d8 here, but just let me show you. I looked at knight f4, but I didn't like knight f4 because of g3. And then if I give a check on e2, the king simply moves away, and my knight is almost trapped. So I need to defend it. Otherwise, if it's attacked one more time, it cannot escape. So I need to defend it with bishop to a6, and somehow this didn't feel right for me. Perhaps it is playable, but it just didn't feel right to leave that knight there and have my bishop defending it, and the bishop cannot go anywhere because this knight is just too vulnerable there. So I didn't want to go into this line. So what I did is simply defended my knight. Here he played rook h to e1, activating all his pieces, and I played bishop to b7. Well, this is a funny diagonal now with all these knights there. He plays g3 now, and when I saw this, I thought, wait a minute, now this knight on f3 is undefended. Is there any possibility for tactics here? I need to make space in this diagonal, and I played the move knight d to b4 with the idea of trading the rooks and having this strong bishop on this diagonal with this undefended knight there on f3. I wasn't sure if it would lead to something concrete, but we were, well, consuming time, and I think that we had now about 20 minutes left each. He played bishop to c4, and I was happy to trade one of the rooks, and now I played rook to d8. Let me return one move because I missed here a very nice move. Perhaps you would like to pause the video and see if you can find it. Okay, I suppose you have pressed on the play button again. Based on this idea of this diagonal, I could have played knight takes c2, because if king takes c2, I have knight to b4 check, and this knight is falling. So king goes to c1, for example, then bishop takes e4, and I've won a pawn. But I didn't see this during the game. I missed it completely, this tactic. And the strange thing is that I was playing knight to b4 just a few moves before this, with the idea of disoccupying this this diagonal to make some tactical ideas possible, and at the moment that it was possible I just missed it, and I thought I need to play rook to d8 to trade one more rook. But well, the game continued. He played c3. Now I played knight to d5 back. Let me return. Why didn't I trade the rooks here? I actually don't remember exactly. Why didn't I do that? Rook takes d1, king takes d1, knight d5 or knight a6, knight d5 perhaps. I don't quite remember what my thought process was. I just went back with this knight. Bishop to b5 now, and here I played knight to a7. Actually I wanted to take the bishop, and I thought if the bishop goes away, I can perhaps play c6 and then later b5. I don't know if that's a very sound idea. He played his knight to g5 here, but let's have a short look. What if bishop to c4? Can I play c6 or c5? Perhaps not c6, perhaps c5 immediately. Yeah, c5 looks nice, and then later knight to c6. Or how about c6 with the idea of playing b5? Well, this knight doesn't look very good here. Oh no, wait a minute, I'm giving d6 away here. So knight d6, and then my bishop is under attack, so this is not, no, this is not good. So if he would go back with his bishop to c4, perhaps bishop c6, attacking a4, and if he defends it, then c3 falls, so he cannot play b3, so he actually needs to play bishop to b3. Well, this knight doesn't look happy. Do I have? Yeah, do I have the same tactic here? Knight takes c3. Knight takes c3. If it takes, then I trade one rook and then I take on f3. If it takes with the pawn, then I can take immediately here, and if it trades a rook, then it doesn't seem to work. Wait a minute, can I can still play this, and if it takes, then take on e4. Okay, so it works, but wait a minute, there is something better. If it takes the rook, I can give a check first here, king to d2, No, doesn't work really. Doesn't work. Return. Okay, I was just checking what this would lead to. But anyway, let's go back to the game, because he played knight e to g5 here. I took the bishop, and he retook, and now I played f6, and I was happy here. I was happy because I had now a beautiful bishop on this open diagonal. I have a centralized knight. I'm winning some space here, so these knights cannot become dangerous. My rook is also active. My king is ready to stay in the center, looking at the endgame. So I was happy here with this position. He played c4, and I think this is a mistake. C4. He should have taken, I think, on f6, because now I took on g5. He took my knight, and now I took with the rook on d5, and after trading rooks I had this very pleasant position. My bishop is going to grab this pawn here on b5, and then I'll have a majority of 3 pawns against 1. On this side my king is defending my own pawns, so I don't have to be worried about his pawns there advancing. Let's have a short look at the alternative. Instead of c4, to take here on f6, and then I wanted to play g takes f6, of course. And now let's see, what can white do now? What can he do? He has a tactic. Knight takes e6, followed by c4. After knight takes e6, king takes e6, my rook is undefended, so he can play c4. If I remove my knight, then my rook falls, so I must stay there with my knight and wait. Perhaps the rook d7. Now he's forced to take here, I think. C takes d. And well, it's perhaps more or less the same type of endgame that we get into if it trades rooks. And well, my king is even closer to the center, my pawn structure is better. Okay, so I'm not correct actually when I say that he should have taken on f6. Let's return. Oh, wait a minute. I took here, he took back, I played f6, and he played c4. But well, let me show you the endgame, because it was quite exciting, because we were actually running out of time, more or less. I played here, and then I took this pawn. He played king to c3, and here I had about 9 minutes, he had about 5 minutes. I played my bishop as far away from his king as possible and ready to advance my pawns. He played h4. I played c5. He played knight to e4, going to d6, because with c5 I'm losing control over the d6 square. Now I played king to d7. My idea is to go to c6 and then to d5. Knight to d6 was played. King c6. f4 now. He's advancing his pawns, trying to force a breakthrough over there. And now king to d5. And he went knight to e8. So he's going to grab this g7 pawn and have a majority of pawns of 4 against 2 on this side, but my pawns are advancing as well. I continued with advancing this pawn here, and now he took on g7. And analyzing this game later, I saw that actually advancing this pawn to b5 was a mistake on my side, because he could have done knight to c7 check, and that's a very tricky check. I need to go back with my king, and my e6 pawn is going to fall. Knight takes. And now his e-pawn can become very dangerous after he takes on g7 after this. So this gets a bit tricky. Still, I have perhaps possibilities of advancing here my own pawns, but this would have been well, not that clear. Let's return to the game to show you how the game ended. He took here. I advanced with check, king to d2. I played a4. He played g4. I played c4 now. f5. G takes f5. G takes f5. And now e takes f5. A beautiful way of winning, actually, I missed at this point. I only found it later after the game, and that's to play here c3 check. If he takes, I can play h3, and if he then goes to c2 to get closer to this pawn, I can play bishop d3 check, and that's a nice one. If he takes, then the pawn is unstoppable. These are these endgame tactics that arise so often, and well, I just didn't have the time to calculate this. I didn't see it. I chose for the most safe way of winning the game, actually, to take here on f5, and he played h5, and now I still could have done this c3 idea, but it was not in my mind. So I played bishop to d3 with the idea that if this pawn advances, I advance my pawn and I control h7. So now I have a totally one position. I'm ready to advance my a pawn. He played e6. I played king to d6, and in this position he resigned. He had only 2 minutes left, I believe, thinking time. I still had, I think, about 5 minutes or 4 minutes, and that's enough to win the game, because well, it's just impossible now to prevent my pawn from promoting. So well, that's the game that I played today, and if I have time, I'll play every day 1 45 minutes game and review it like this one. So now it's 2 against 0 against this player Astorani 40. So I hope I meet him again, and it's well, it looks like we are playing a kind of a match now. But well, thanks for watching anyway, and perhaps if you would like to play a game against me, perhaps we will meet. I mean, I cannot promise that it will happen, but who knows? Who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.